Good morning, happy holidays, and welcome to UPN Focus. I'm your host, Milt Thompson, and as you know, over the last several weeks, we've been highlighting organizations that have a significant role in our community. We're going to do that again this morning with the Children's Guardian Home, and we'll do that by way of, with a couple of good friends. Paul Browne, who is the Executive Director of the Children's Guardian Home. Welcome.
Morning.
And we're going to do it with Dan Lowring, one of my old sidekicks in all kinds of crime around town, who is one of the lead volunteers of the Children's Guardian Home. Dan,
yes.
Welcome here to our show.
Thank you. Appreciate very much the opportunity to be here, Mel.
Well, people have heard the name, but have perhaps no idea what it is, where it is, and what it's for. Why don't you tell us about that, Paul?
Well, a Children's Guardian Home provides emergency shelter care in Marion County to children that are in circumstances of abuse or neglect and that need protective custody. Children come to us through local law enforcement officials, through the Youth Emergency Services, as well as the Child Protection Service in Marion County. And they're in circumstances where they need protective custody as indicated by someone else, and we provide care for them until they can go to a foster home or a group home or back home with services if that can be accomplished.
The history. Who started it, why did it start, and what good reason are we still here?
Yeah. Well, it started out as the Board of Children's Guardians back at the turn of the century, so it's over 100 years old. And that board had some responsibility for the care of children. The language of social services was different back then. Children that found themselves in circumstances of debauchery and so forth, and other social service vernacular was a bit different, but the purpose has been much the same: to provide a safe haven for children that need care and that cannot be cared for by their own legal guardians or their parents.
Dan, you've been involved in organizations, not-for-profit, others that are known for being in service and trying to help others. What drew you as a volunteer to the Children's Guardian Home?
Yeah. Well, Mel, I've been involved with the Guardians Home for probably over 30 years, and I really came to that through my membership in the Sertoma Club of East Indianapolis. And the Guardians Home still is today and has been since the East Indianapolis inception in 1955. It's one of our primary sponsorships, where we have club members that will gather together to give back in a mentoring capacity, to spend time with the kids, raise money for various opportunities to give to the home.
But your relationship with it has outlived kind of that initial philanthropic kind of piece, is it not?
Yes, it is. And then about 5 years ago, we established the Guardians Home Foundation Board, and I was a charter member and still involved with that. And we're involved right at the moment with major renovation and expansion of the Guardians Home. And Paul could maybe share with you a little bit more and where that is and the real significance of it and why it's so important that we do that.
Well, why don't you do that, Paul? You set you up. I mean, that's the best way to have a volunteer who just leads right into the guts of what we're trying to talk about. Tell us about the Guardian Home, where it is, and kind of the shape of the home and what you're trying to get accomplished.
Yeah. Dan's a good man, and he's been a good ambassador for the home in a lot of ways through Sertoma, and his family's been involved too. But the Guardian Home Foundation, as Dan mentioned, was established several years ago, 1996, as a enabler in raising money for program development and the enhancement of the quality of life for children while they're with us at the home. And the first major project was the Guardian Home 2000 project, which is a modernization of the physical plant to allow us to separate needs groups and age groups a little better than we can with a building that was built at the turn of the century as an orphanage. So that this program will not only, in capital campaign, will not only modernize the physical plant, but also will create some office space for partners that respond to the needs of abused and neglected children in Marion County, so that the Child Protection Service will have expanded office space at the Guardian Home. The Health and Hospital Corporation will have a presence on site. Midtown Mental Health will also be with us. And those people that are natural partners in responding to abused and neglected children. But in the future, I can see other program development occurring through the foundation as the primary fundraising arm of the Guardian Home.
Tell us about the facility.
Well, the physical plant is about 43,000 square feet. It's on the east side of Indianapolis in a residential area called Irvington. Irvington used to be the last stop on the trolley from downtown Indianapolis. It's one of the first neighborhoods and so forth. It was part of Butler University back in the 1920s. And there are a lot of areas that are on the historic registry, and the area in and around the Guardian home is on the historic registry, the 2 blocks right at University and that area contingent to 2 blocks around the home itself.
The size of your capital campaign, the uses of the dollar, how much money you're trying to raise, so, and where's the money going to go?
We're in the last stages of a $9 million capital campaign, and we've raised about 85% of those monies. And the money is going toward the construction, the renovation of the physical plant, so that, as well as some furniture and fixtures. There's maybe $300,000 of that toward furniture and fixtures. There's certainly architectural fees that go along with that, but we've had some great community response. Duke Weeks has been very generous to us in providing construction management on this project, and that's saved me a great headache, believe me. Just the logistics of trying to continue to provide a service at an agency where you're having a construction and renovation project going on is a real logistics nightmare.
Will there be any increase in your capacity? Was your current capacity, and how many youngsters will you be able to help and support once the renovation is complete?
Well, we're caring for about 2,500 children a year now. Our license is for 80 children. Often we're at about a 50 on an average number and so forth. So frankly, the emphasis is more on the modernization of the physical plant and creating those separations of needs groups and age groups. Our capacity won't go up. In fact, I think in many cases, if movement can happen within the child welfare system quickly, youngsters might go to foster care a little more quickly than they have in the past. So that I don't know that our numbers are going to go up so much as just having a more modern facility and more service area.
Milt, if I might pick up on that, one of the reasons that I got involved early on, and I'm still involved, is because these are kids that really, personally, and Paul may agree with this, but it's an expression I've had for some time, they're good kids that maybe have delinquent parents. And it's a safe shelter for them until they go back into their home or into a foster home. But these are kids that may range all the way from a few days old, a few weeks old, if you will, to maybe 18. And there's facilities for each of them at different age groups. But there's an infirmary there, and then there's a nursery for small children that as you go through that nursery and see these small kids and the tender loving care they're getting from staff there, it really tugs at your heart. And I know a personal experience, Paul and I had some foundation people there. We were talking with them about considering giving some money to our capital campaign, and when we got to the nursery, I think that was enough right there, because they saw these young kids, they saw that care, and they came on board and helped us with that. And then if someone who has not been to that facility and seen the care that is given to those kids, I would encourage them to go by and see it, because it's an incredible facility.
I got a feeling that this is an organization that is so much more than the facility. I have a feeling that there is a service delivery component to this that is really critical to our community, and that's what I want to talk about right after we share these important words. And welcome back to UPN Focus. We've been talking with my good friends Paul Browne and Dan Lowring from the Children's Guardian Home here in Indianapolis, East Side facility that's undergoing a significant capital campaign for the renovation to have more quality facilities for care. You were talking right before the break, Dan, about a few things that cause you to want to continue to participate and continue to help because of the people that are inside. Tell us, before we talk about that customer or that person that we're trying to serve, tell us about the people who are doing the serving. Tell us about the staff, the qualifications necessary for those to participate in that kind of endeavor.
We have a staff of 58 people, and we run around the clock. And so that 58% of our admissions, or close to 60% of our admissions, happen after regular office hours and on weekends. And the predominance of our staff members are involved in a child care worker capacity. And we require at least 2 years of experience, that they be 21 years of age. We do criminal history checks on them and so forth to make sure that they have the background that's conducive to
not
this type of
exacerbate the
work.
damage, but,
Exactly.
but to literally be
Exactly.
in positions to help.
Yeah, exactly. And we look for people that have a real desire and a proven interest in working with kids. And it's not just people that have worked, but people that have volunteered. I think a lot of times people don't put on their resume their volunteer work, the things they do with their own kids as they go through school, or the things they do out in the community that are just as valid and show a real interest in working with children.
Well, it's unfortunate that you have to exist, but the reality is that you need to exist, and that we have those in our city who need this kind of help and assistance. Tell us about if there is such thing as a typical visitor to the Children's Guardian Home.
One of the things that's a common thread is that 70% of the children that come to us come from families where there's a demonstrated problem with alcohol or substance abuse. So that it may not be the only factor involved, but certainly the primary causal factor involved with the youngsters coming to us. About half of the children come to us and are characterized by Child Protection Service as being neglected. Probably 25% come in as children that have been physically abused and have marks. And sometimes they need medical care prior to being admitted to the Guardian Home. So there are times that youngsters come to us from the hospital. We're seeing more children coming to us at birth or just after birth at 5 days old, where a mother has been addicted to cocaine or other drugs. And it's kind of a pitiful existence to think that a youngster at 5 days old is at the county children's home and going through withdrawal themselves. But we do the best we can at trying to make the environment a safe one, a nurturing one for all the kids that are with us, even though they're with us a short period of time. And the average length of stay for youngsters is about 2 weeks. A lot of it depends upon the age of the children. We take children from a few days old, as I mentioned, up to 18 years of age. And the teenage youngsters typically have some more emotional problems if they've been in and out of foster care, or if they've had failed placements or been in and out of their own homes. And those kids require a specialized placement in many cases, maybe a therapeutic foster home or residential treatment, and those youngsters are with us a longer period of time.
Well, would it be an overstatement to suggest that a socioeconomic background may have some impact on the profile of the clients you serve, or is it fair to say that perhaps from almost any socioeconomic background could there be harm to children that would require the interdiction of the Guardian's Home?
I think abuse and neglect transcend the socioeconomic background and so forth, but many of the problems that you see, particularly with children that have been neglected, may well be rooted in poverty. Situations where a mother without child support and so forth is doing the best she can to financially raise, care for her kids and so forth, and maybe doesn't have the emotional support of family around her. Might be a person that would be maybe not know the system well enough to know where to ask for help and assistance, and those children might go to school and talk to their teacher about being hungry, and all of a sudden then Child Protection Service is there asking the hard questions, but also giving a hand to that family too, or that single parent.
Relationship to the criminal justice system, degree to which there are referrals or otherwise, degree to which one qualifies, if you will, to take advantage of the services of the Guardian Home. Do you get involved in any of that, or are you simply the referral source, or how do you, in a 2-week period of time, do something more than just house these youngsters?
Well, I might speak to that as a volunteer, Milt. One of the key things that I think that a volunteer can do is just to spend time with the kids. I recall several years ago there was a young teenage girl that my wife and I had gotten to know over a few weeks as we attended various functions at the Guardian's Home, and I was shocked at the story that she told me, that the abuse that was in their home. And again, we spent some time with her, just being there and being a friend. And a few months ago, we had a groundbreaking for the Guardians Home for the renovation and expansion. And this young girl was there. Now this is now maybe a time lapse of 8 or 10 years. And she came up to me at that day and said, "You don't probably remember me, do you?" And I could not call her name in candor, but I remembered her face, and we chatted some, and she was there with her husband and a little child, and she thanked me for the time that I'd taken to spend with her back several years ago. And that's the real significance of the volunteer involvement. I mean, raising the money is important, and we do need that, but just to be there, to be a friend, to be a mentor, just to listen. And so those are the type of kids that I think we can really help.
It's interesting, let me piggyback on something Dan said. I heard an Episcopal bishop in this community once talk about not knowing when you have an extraordinary day sometimes. And I think in human services, and when you talk with people, and youngsters particularly that are impressionable, sometimes you don't know till sometime later when you've had an extraordinary day. And
good point. Yeah, very good.
You ask about the juvenile justice system and how we interface with them. There are a lot of younger children that get into trouble that have been unsupervised, and a 10-year-old that maybe shoplifted at a store trying to get something to eat is not a youngster that's a hardcore delinquent youngster, and often the courts will send us youngsters that are in circumstances that are judged not to be pure delinquency, but were more rooted in the neglect that occurred in that family. There are some times that I've maybe disagreed with the judgments of the courts in regard to the referrals, but we've always tried to look at each youngster and deal with the behaviors and not have a predisposition about the behaviors that might be displayed. Youngsters that have been abused or neglected tend to be angry and frustrated kids, and I think you have to take that in mind. The activities that we have in the community, we try to go out and get kids involved in activities that emphasize a lot of gross motor movement, arm and leg movement. So we do a lot of swimming, activities that I think are therapeutic, even for a short period of time when the children are with us.
So the idea then is to cause some linkages with other organizations or otherwise that perhaps can assist during this interim period, and that's what it really is, as an interim period, before they are placed into a more safe environment from which they had come.
Sure. It gives some time to assess that situation by professionals. The Child Protection Service, Youth Emergency Services, and our staff do some assessment that's helpful in making a recommendation for placement for a youngster.
Well, I'm very interested in how others out in our community can be of assistance and service and volunteer and helping raise money and being a part of this incredible mission for the safety of children, and I want to do that right after we share these important words with our audience. And welcome back to UPN Focus. Been talking with Paul Browne and Dan Lowring about the Children's Guardian Home. We've talked a bit about its facility and its opportunities with a capital campaign to improve that facility. We've talked some about the relationship to the referral sources on how those youngsters are referred to there. And we've also had some really fascinating discussions about the heart of the place, the people that it serves. Dan, talk about the volunteers and how people out there are saying, God, that's something that I've been looking to get involved with. How do they come to become a volunteer, and what kind of experiences can they expect?
Well, a volunteer could come in many different ways. As I indicated earlier, I came through a service club, and several of our members are involved. We do various activities with the kids. But individuals can drop by and be involved in several ways. At this time of year, we try to give some gifts to the children that they might not get otherwise, and so there's always a need for gifts. Spending some time, and that's a key thing. And as we go forward with our final fundraising for the expansion. There our need for dollars to complete that, and we are a 501c3, and so it sets up for proper charitable deduction, and so gifts of any small amount to large amount are greatly needed, and we would certainly appreciate that.
As a potential volunteer, I don't know how to do this. Yeah. Do you teach me how to be nice to children?
Let me tell you, to piggyback on what Dan said, there are several ways that children are serviced and cared for at the Guardian Home, and several volunteer opportunities. One is in our nursery, the nurturing experiences. And anybody that's had children shouldn't be afraid to interface with our kids. And just the kind of experiences holding a child. Some of they sound rather mundane, but reading to a child, stimulating their imagination, teaching them colors, things like that, that are all nurturing experiences that we take for granted in a healthy family environment. Certainly is an opportunity for a volunteer.
Got a great gymnasium that we play basketball sometimes against the kids. We can get you out there.
I grew up playing in that very gymnasium
That's right.
a long time ago. With a business, though, the rubber meets the road, and you've got to be able to support the mission of the operations. The initiatives for raising money, and how can people contact you and participate in that kind of way?
Well, as I said, we've raised about 85% in our capital campaign, and we're looking for both individual partners as well as corporate partners here, and this is a good time of the year. We're at 5751 University Avenue in Irvington, as I mentioned, and that's 46219. They can make contributions to that address, to my attention, or they can call at 356-7296, and we'll be glad to give them information, take them through on a tour, show them the opportunities that are there, not only for cash donations, but for their volunteer
volunteerism
efforts.
too. And I'm certain that people will take advantage of that opportunity, just like they will of our community calendar this week.
Here are some more events in our area for you to focus on. The Castleton United Methodist Church is presenting a 5-scene live nativity on December 14th through the 17th. Over 100 people perform each night in scenes that have elaborate sets and props. Castleton United Methodist Church is located at 71st and Shadeland in Indianapolis. The holidays bring out the best in everyone. This season, the American Red Cross needs your help. Need knows no season, and blood supplies run dangerously low this time of year. In fact, some hospitals postpone surgical procedures due to blood shortages. Stop by the Red Cross and give the greatest gift of all, give blood this holiday season. And the Faith Baptist Church in Lafayette is presenting an interactive and living nativity scene. This is the final weekend, so don't miss it. You can walk the streets of Bethlehem, talk to Mary and Joseph, shake hands with the wise men, and get an up-close look at the camels. This is the 10th year for this wonderful presentation, and admission is free. We'd like to hear from you. Send your event information 3 weeks in advance to be part of the UPN 23 community calendar.
And of course, as always, I know you'll take advantage of those great opportunities, just like we've taken advantage of the opportunity to talk to Browne and Dan Lowring about one of our community institutions that really is in the middle of helping people, and that's the Children's Guardian Home. Gentlemen, thank you for showing here today your true stripes.
Thank you, Bill.
And you come right back here this time next week for UPN Focus.